This coming week, I'll be getting together with some friends that I first met in the seminary 40 years ago and haven't seen for several years. And just thinking about getting together with them has caused a flood of memories to come rushing back. One memory is that at the start of every summer, before heading out the door to drive home, the rector of the seminary would gather us all together in the chapel for a talk which always included this line: remember, there is no vacation from your vocation. No vacation from your vocation. It was his way of telling us that our calling to be priest couldn't be an on-again, off-again sort of thing. It's not something we did for 9 months in the seminary and then took 3 months off. Summer vacation for us was not like shore leave for sailors. No, our vocation had to be all or nothing, 24/7, 365 days a year, every year. There's no vacation from your vocation. And these powerful and sobering words have stayed with me all these years. But I don't think it's a message that only applies to seminarians or priests or religious. I think it applies to married people, to single people, and it certainly applies to anyone who wants to follow Jesus. Well, in today's gospel, Jesus gave us a powerful reminder of how we can live out our vocation as his disciples. The Bible gives us many descriptions of God. The Old Testament tells us that God is a creator and a ruler, a warrior and a judge. In the New Testament, Jesus describes God as a loving and merciful and forgiving Father. Jesus also gave us some powerful images to describe our relationship to God. Today we heard this one: "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves, for my yoke is easy and my burden light." Now, to really understand what Jesus is saying in this message, we have to talk about yokes. What's a yoke? Well, a yoke is a harness that a farmer puts over the shoulders of an animal, like a cow, a mule, an ox, or a horse, and then he walks behind the animal, holding on to reins that are attached to the yoke. And through gentle pulls and soft commands, he's able to guide the animal as it plows his field. But there are two kinds of yokes: one made for a single animal, and a second for a pair of animals to walk side by side. Here's an image of the second kind of yoke, and it's what Jesus had in mind when he said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." So it's not Jesus saying, "Here, you take the yoke, you take the burden, I'm tired of it. It's too heavy, it's your turn now." No, it's Jesus saying, we're in this together, side by side, you and me, making our way through life together. This is Jesus teaching his followers who God is and what their vocation in life must be. So what does this look like practically, personally, for you and me? Well, first, you must let Christ lead you in life. Without this, without Jesus' yoke guiding you, you can end up distracted and mired down in the things of this world. Without Christ in control of your life, without him leading you, you can become consumed by worries and fears that keep you from moving forward in life. This can so easily happen. Anytime you try to grab hold of the reins, by deciding that you alone know what is best in life. You end up calling all the shots, setting the agenda, and leave God out of your plans and your purpose in life. This is a sure way to end up lost or sidetracked in life. Some people give God control of certain things in life, like maybe they turn to Christ when they're really hurting or struggling, but then don't let him in when it comes to decisions about family or relationships or finances. Letting Christ lead you means giving him full control and trusting that he will take you in the right direction. Another trap you can fall into is keeping your struggles and pains to yourself, thinking that you're strong enough to make it through life on your own. But remember what I said 2 weeks ago in my message. 99% of the time, God comes to us through other people. He brings people into our lives and into our path to remind us that we're not alone and to help us walk through life. How much pain and worry and fear do we suffer with simply because we don't let others in on what we're dealing with? Too much, I'm sure. And it's so needless. God made us for each other. Jesus sent out his disciples in pairs. He surrounded himself with apostles. And he sent his Holy Spirit to establish the church, a family of believers. So for you, letting Christ lead you may require you to let people into your life in a new or deeper way. Let them know what's going on and ask for help. The second thing this gospel teaches is that you must remain tied to Christ always. The image of the yoke is a personal invitation to stay joined to Jesus and to keep him by your side always. That image of the two cows yoked together is what you need when it comes to going through life. It means keeping God so close that you can feel him and hear him, sensing his breath on your face. How do you do this? Well, the answer is to turn to the spiritual tools of our faith. Daily prayer, weekly worship, connecting with others through ministry and service and small groups. All these tools will keep you tied to Christ always. They are designed to attune your heart to Jesus' gentle commands and his gentle pulls. Make no mistake, the yoke of Christ requires sacrifice and commitment. I learned this in seminary, and it's what the rector was reminding me and my classmates of at the start of every summer. It's a lesson you must learn too. Until you do, life will be a struggle. In my message 2 weeks ago, I asked you to think of something that you're struggling with in your life that you would change if you could. For some of you, it's a health crisis. Others of you are dealing with a family or relationship challenge. For others, it's work or family related. Maybe it's just fear about the future. And I invited you then to turn to God and turn it over to God every day. I'm going to go out on a limb now and assume that in these past 2 weeks, those struggles haven't gone away entirely. I know mine hasn't. So this act of turning to God, this act of surrendering our worries, our problems, and our cares has to be something we do each day. This is where today's gospel comes in. With whatever your burden or care is, whatever is weighing heavily upon you, let Jesus help you carry it. Know that he is right beside you, right now and always. Don't try to carry it alone. Instead, experience that lightness Christ promises. The burdens of life don't always go away, but they become easier to bear with Jesus at our side and helping us to walk through life. When I first went away to the seminary, a cousin gave me a plaque that hung on the wall of my room for 8 years and now sits in my office. The plaque has the poem Footprints on it. You've probably heard it because I've mentioned it before, but I thought I would end my message with it because I think it perfectly describes what Jesus is teaching in today's gospel. And as I read it, think of what you are struggling with right now. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed that he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times of his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I've noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, when there's only one set of footprints, I don't understand why when I needed you most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you, and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you.